Would you want to go down and cover the Super Bowl?
Yeah, that's wishful thinking.
Gentlemen, welcome back to the Wishful Thinking Podcast. We're here today with Nick Pedone, the one and only. What's going on, man?
What's up, dude? Thank you so much for having me. You guys are crushing it. This place is super cool too.
You like it, dude?
Yeah, you guys are rock and roll.
I appreciate the kind words. We're ecstatic to have you on, dude.
Yeah, definitely.
And you're making a name for yourself out here, especially in Cleveland, small town world.
Yeah.
Not so small as it may seem, but yeah, we're glad to have you on. We'll dive into a few things, but for those of you who at home who don't know you, give them a little brief introduction of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate it. Cleveland native, kind of first and foremost from here, sports media professional. So I've been in this space for a minute now, really since I was, 18 and flipped from Nordonia High School where we both went to Kent State then, and I studied journalism at Kent State, and then hopped right into the professional world of covering Cleveland sports. So
nice. So we got a lot of topics we want to get into. For us, it's just best to start at the beginning.
Yeah.
So you're this sports professional. Did you always have a love for sports as a kid, or did it something that was developed over time?
Yeah. So oddly, I never really liked sports that much as a little kid. I was always into the content side of it though. So when I was growing up, I always was messing around with my flip phone cameras when that came out. My mom would give me her phone and we would take pictures on flip phone cameras. And then I was a teenager and had my own video camera and would post stuff to YouTube.
Really?
So I was always very much into the content side. But then around the age where you start liking girls, I realized that you got to sports is kind of the way to to make that happen. So I started playing basketball. And yeah, so that's kind of how I got into sports. I was always into I would say content before I was into sports.
So when you say the content,
really
were you when you were posting videos and stuff, was it highlight reels and stuff like that? Or
no, dude, we were just screwing around. We were literally, 10 years old, just in our backyard, screwing around with the kids in the neighborhood.
Oh, yeah?
We would just upload it to YouTube. Nobody would watch, it would have maybe 10 views and it would be just all of us that went back home after we posted it to go watch it. But yeah,
Are those videos still up to this day?
No, they're not. I mean, maybe if you looked hard enough for them, I might be able to remember some old passwords of what it could have been, but
I feel like everybody who's probably in the space now had a period in their life where they did it a long time ago. It didn't really work out. They fell off. Then they matured and they realized they still liked it. Because we had a similar.
Yeah, we did.
We would post pranks and just fails. Even
I did pranks, dude.
Videos,
oh yeah,
types cover
the
videos,
challenges when people were doing the cinnamon challenge and
we
shit.
did all that kind of stupid shit when we were younger, and it never really stuck. But it's funny looking back on it now. You're in the creator world. We're now in the creator world. It's we were doing it.
It lays the groundwork. Yeah, and it's cool too now that because that was the kind of stuff was all new when we were growing up. YouTube was brand new, but now you as a parent, my parents weren't exactly encouraging, go be a YouTuber. They were more so encouraging go to school and do something that's normal and makes sense because that's what they knew, But now we're at this weird time now where our kids, if they want to be a YouTuber and show promise in it from a young age, I would be who am I to say that you can't be a YouTuber?
It's crazy because, like you said, that was never really a thought process, but now it's an actual career that kids are wanting to become.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think now more kids probably want to do YouTube than anything else.
YouTube, TikTok, all
Twitch,
that.
the streaming
is huge
even
now.
whereas when we were growing up, our get real thing was and mine was too. Then when I was in 4th grade, I thought I was going to the NBA, because I was good at youth sports, so I thought I was league bound, and then that was another grow up you're not going to the NBA, and I only grew to be 5'8", so they were right. I
had the same thing. I played basketball, and when I was in 3rd or 4th grade, I was the tallest kid out there, 20 points a night. And then you start to grow, and then you slow up, and I'm finish at 6'1", 6'2", and it's like, okay, I guess I'm not going to the league.
Yeah. It gets sobering quick. So I like to say though that like I married both of those worlds. Like it was very evident to me, quickly that I wasn't going to the NBA. Like had that figured out by about 6th grade. And then growing up, my dad would drive us to school. My brother and I grew up in Garfield Heights, so we went to a private school there. Yeah, a lot of people.
I was born in Garfield Heights.
Oh, were you? I lived on Woodward until I was 4.
Off attorney in the Wood District.
Until I was 15, and then that's when I moved to Nordonia, met you. So I spent my literally kindergarten through freshman year. I lived in Garfield, and my dad would drive us to school because we lived too close to the school for the bus. But it was like definitely too far to walk. It was like a little gray area.
Garfield's not doing too hot now.
No, and it wasn't at that time either, unfortunately. So
that's crazy. We lived on Grand Division and 88th Street. So
okay.
Kind of like go past the high school a little bit, even further towards Cleveland. But no, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Small world, man.
Born and raised Garfield. Bulldogs. I went to private school. I went to St. Monica's, and then it became St. Benedict my last year there, and then I went to Trinity my freshman year.
St. Monica has a very good like carnival and fair every summer.
Dude, it was massive. It was massive. We would work that fair. Like me and my 2 buddies would work it every year, and like some kid, I don't even know if like I should say, I guess it doesn't matter now, but like some kids would just get like their volunteer hours, but we would get a check every year. We would get like $200 at the end of the carnival. And we would like, dude, you're 13, 14 years old, $200 at the end of your, like in the summer too, where like there's nothing but other, Bedford still had all their festivals and home days. Like you were loaded with $200, dude. Like
that's where I was from. Bedford. That's where I went to
school. The church check, just got you through. Shout out St. Monica's. No, but sick, so my dad would drive us to school, and he was like a sports radio junkie. Like that was just his routine. He would drop us off and then take it to work, and I loved it. I loved listening to what those guys had to say. Like their takes were honestly like the reason why I would want to tune into the games. Like I would want to see, like what the storylines were, around the games. Like everything about the media side of it like blew my mind, and I really enjoyed the car rides with my dad listening to sports talk. So like it kind of just took off from there, So
that's what started it for you.
That's really what started it. Yeah. Like, and like, I was never, like I was good at school, but I was never like great, I failed Algebra 1. So like my freshman year at Trinity was just brutal. I hated it there. Failed, Algebra 1. Like, you're that age, like it's easy to get like super down on yourself. So like I was like, like, do you even finish school? Like when you fail a class, like what do you even do? And my dad told me, in the car one time, and it's stuck with me literally to this day. He was like, like these guys right now are getting paid to sit around and talk about sports. Like they probably went to school for communications, broadcast, whatever. This is their job. They show up there every day and they're getting paid actual money to sit around. And he's like, if I could redo it, he's like, he'd redo everything in my life. He's like, that's what I would do. And that was like the light bulb moment. I'm like, this is what I'm meant to do. I didn't know that it would be, specifically radio or now podcasting or what it would look like. But like ever since like that one day when he told me that, like I obsessed over it. And I was like, well, that's what I'm going to do then. It's final. Like I've made up my mind.
So when you went to school for journaling, did you were like, I'm only going to take sports journaling or broadcasting, or were you open to possibly like another job opportunity if it arose to you?
It's always been sports journalism. So like especially at Kent, which is like, kind of a liberal school, like the journalism program was massive. And I think it kind of helped me though in a weird way, like wanting to be so focused on sports, because like they had a massive, student newsroom where these kids want to get into like politics and world, things that are, I'm like, dude, I just want to do the sports, so it made it really easy for me though to, because there wasn't that many kids, and there were definitely a handful, but yeah, it's always been, sports journalism, sports communication.
Was there anybody else in there that was doing that as well, or were you like the only one? Really?
No, for sure. I mean, there was definitely probably like anywhere from 10 to 12 kids in just my graduating class from Kent that wanted to do sports journalism, sports broadcasting, whatever. And it's such like a wide ranging field too. Like you could do play-by-play, you could be a writer, you could be a broadcaster, you could be behind the scenes doing social now, like you could do video work. Like, so there's just so much stuff that you could do like in the space that Yeah, I definitely just, once I started with it, I was like, well, this is cool as hell. Like, I'm not changing. Like, I just enjoyed it even more as I got into it. And I was like,
you got to chase your passion.
Yeah, just see it through.
If you have a dream, you got to chase it.
Yeah.
It's that simple. So when you were in high school, we went to Nordonia. Shout out Nordonia. Shout out to Denzel Ward.
Yeah, I love
Jersey. A award particularly for this. You did a pod with Denzel, right?
Oh yeah. It's been awesome that we've been able to do a couple things together. Just because cool. he understands that I'm from the same community as him, and kind of doing the broadcast thing, and he's obviously from the same community doing the NFL thing at the highest level. So I'm beyond appreciative of him. Just that as somebody that's really young in this space, like Denzel has always kind of understood, that I'm, just trying to make my way.
Those of you who don't know, he's a Browns cornerback, number 4 pick in the draft, superstar, clamps. I mean,
all pro,
all pro. He's a star. I would love to have him on the podcast one day. Hopefully, we'll get him on here.
Get him right here.
His dad was actually my principal in middle school.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, Mr.
Like a small world. That's insane.
We'll get him there one day. So when you were in high school, were you taking any courses in Nordonia that helped kind of aid that track?
Not really, man. I feel like at the time, it wasn't really a thing. Like Nordonia didn't really have anything for it. Trinity certainly didn't. So like when I was at Trinity my freshman year, they do like block scheduling, which again, not a fit for me at all. So you only have 4 classes a day. They're 2 hours long a piece.
Man.
I could couldn't sit still for that long. It was horrible. So they didn't really have anything. And then when I went to Nordonia, it's kind of same thing. Like shout out Mr. Carter. I took photo. So like photo was kind of the closest thing because you just get comfortable with like working a camera, working Photoshop, being able to edit on a computer. So like some of those skills, that we learned with Mr. Carter, I would say that like I still definitely use, now. Sure. But in terms of like broadcasting and stuff like that, or even like journalism, like like English class, like everybody took that kind of like writing papers, but like that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure though that like the Mr. Carter's photography class definitely still helps you, because even now, like navigating computer editing software, navigating a camera, learning what ISO and all these other things on a camera are is important, even if you're in front of the camera, let alone behind the camera. So I could definitely see that being Mr. Carter, dude. I didn't take that class actually. I didn't have. In high school, I had no dreams of doing anything in that, I had dreams, but not in the podcasting or the creator realm. I was going the more, businessy route.
Safe side.
And honestly, like that's not even why I took photo. Like, dude, truly, like by the time I got to Nordonia, I'll be honest with you, like my GPA was pretty much shot. Like you, as a freshman, you start out and you get an F in one class and a D, and like you're coming in like bottom of the barrel. So so it was literally just a check a box elective that I was there. My parents like didn't go to college either. So they were like super strict on me my whole upbringing, that like I was going to go to college, and kind of forced that on both me and my brother. And ultimately I did, and graduated and became like a first generation college student or whatever. But by the time I got to Nordonia, I was really just there to check a box and to take like the easiest stuff possible to improve my GPA so I could like get into even, just a normal college, because I was kind of like, playing from behind, so to speak, after my freshman year.
Would you say college like really helped you in what you're doing now, or do you think that you kind of could have went without it possibly and still ended up where you are now?
That's a good question, man. I think it's a similar thing to my high school answer, where like I had to check the box and get the degree. Like I don't think I would be able to do any of the things that I did if I didn't have like the bachelor, a piece of paper in my back pocket that said that I finished it. But like I also on the same page, like I can't sit here and tell you guys that like I'm using every little thing that I learned during my time in camp, like every day in my professional life. Like that's just straight up not the truth. Like it's just, it was a lot of extra added nonsense. Like I'm sure like in the journalism building specifically, like I picked up things that I use every day, but vast majority really, I would say no. I've kind of just figured out how to do it on my own, and then really just got lucky and leaned on a, pool of really good mentors and internships and all that good stuff that kind of springboard my professional career.
So, where did you internship? Did you intern anywhere before going into college?
Before going into college, yes, our senior year in Nordonia, I interned at Cable 9. I don't know if do you know what that is?
Yeah.
They do the high school sports broadcasts. It's local access TV really.
Yeah.
So like on the regular, they're not even doing sports. On the regular, they're covering whatever's going on in like Macedonia, Twinsburg, Aurora, and I think maybe Hudson.
Okay.
So I interned there like literally our last 2 weeks of senior year. And that was a cool experience, like being in a real TV station, like even though it was just local access, like I produced the news one time and that was cool. Like, and then they kind of brought me back my freshman year at Kent and I helped them do some high school sports stuff. So that was kind of like my first, I guess, like professional internship that kind of turned into a part-time job when I got to Kent.
Definitely was, useful in your career. What about in college?
Same deal. When I went to college, like they really sell you on, and I think it's a good thing. Like I would be an ambassador of kids getting involved any way they can. So like you get there, I'm like, all right, so easy thing for me, right? Like I've literally waited, kind of my whole life to get involved in like media. So like get involved in student media. I was I wrote for the Kent Stater, which is like the newspaper, KentWire.com, which was the website side. I hosted a sports show on Black Squirrel Radio with my buddy Alex Kaufman, who like we're still like super tight to this day. Those shows, like it's so funny. Like those were awful. Like we had literally no idea what we were doing. Like they threw, you're in college, they threw you in a room with microphones and a board and do a radio show, so I did that for a while. But the thing was though, like I was really tired of just like high school sports and Kent sports, because like nobody was reading my stuff at the Kent Stater. Unfortunately my Kent volleyball columns just weren't really moving the needle there. And then same with like high school, like Nordonia football, like it was like cool to cover, I guess, but like what was I really doing with that? So I even when we were at college and then definitely, or at Nordonia and then definitely when I went to Kent, I was just tweeting about Cleveland sports. I figured like if I could grow my name in Cleveland sports with this degree backing me in journalism, I'll be able to do something. And it just so happened that like Twitter was kind of the hot app for sports conversation. That's where sports all live. So I did that all through high school, really all through college, just kind of in the background, like live tweeting games, giving my like thoughts and input and analysis on that. So by the time I was at Kent, I actually had like a decent-ish following of like a couple hundred people, that cared what I had to say about Cleveland sports. So then from there, that let me get, onto a couple of like Cleveland sports blogs. And then that's kind of really where I was able to.
I feel like you've really blossomed on Twitter, now X.
Yeah.
So we'll make sure to put all your stuff in the description so people could find you anywhere, X, Instagram, etc.
For sure.
I have a question. So when you do the all your sports stuff, is it like all Cleveland sports that you mess with, or do you have like a specific niche or something that you lean towards more?
Yeah, pretty much everything. That's the nice thing about, me, at least, and I've been told this by people, like it's beneficial to me as somebody in this space that I have the ability to cover and talk about all three professional sports. So I could do Guards, Cavs, and Browns. And obviously some people as their careers advance, like, get hired as like a specific, like Nick O'Connor, I'm hiring you, I'm Cleveland.com, I'm hiring you to be my Cleveland Browns reporter. Right. So your job every day is to cover the Cleveland Browns, from practices to community events to obviously the games, training camp, OTAs, like your beat is the Browns. Like, you have nothing to do with Cavs, nothing to do with Guardians. Like, you're the Browns beat reporter. Same thing, Guardians, Cavs. But it's been nice, and thankfully, BigPlay has really given me the outlet to, be an expert at all three.
Yeah, we'll get into a lot of the professional stuff and the big play in a little bit. I want to ask you a little and dive in deeper on like the beginning stuff, because it isn't a waste. None of that stuff was a waste that you did. And I want to make it apparent to the camera that you said get involved as much as possible.
Yeah.
It's important to get involved, because even when you're doing stuff that you look back on, you think, oh, this was, stupid, or it wasn't really gaining views or nothing. You learn stuff that are still helping you now, and you got yourself comfortable. You learned the wrongs. You were able to kind of shape yourself.
Yeah.
So my question to you, and if you could help explain to the camera, is like, dive a little more into like the getting involved aspect. How can somebody get involved into a dream of theirs?
Yeah.
Dive full into their passion.
Dude, honestly, it's just start. Like, that's the biggest thing, is you just have to start. Like, there's literally no, like, and I think this probably applies to not even just media, but like specifically media, and then probably some other stuff too. Like, just start. Like, you don't have to get hired by like a blog to blog. You could start your own blog, and will anybody read it? No, nobody's going to read the first couple things that you put out there. But if you're consistent at it and you just start doing literally anything, it will eventually get traction. Like, I literally was just tweeting about Cleveland sports for years and years and years before anybody cared at all. And even now, like, I'm not, trying to sit here and proclaim to be, some sort of expert or somebody who's made it X far. Like, this is kind of a cool, like, snapshot of how far, I've come professionally, but there's definitely still places to grow from here. So, like, literally it's just start doing anything. And you'll be able to not just learn things from those experiences, but I think back to like some of the people that I met at all of those different stops that I've had, and like advice that they've given me or things that they've told me to like check out or get into. Like, but literally you just have to start. Like, that's the scary part too. Like, I get, like, you might not want to post, on your personal social media pages because you're afraid of like what people might think, or like that the content might not be polished like the exact way that you want it to be. But if you're never putting it out, then nobody's going to see it, and you're just going to spend, your whole life waiting. So that's my biggest like advice to anybody. And I'm definitely at the spot now where, I get people reaching out like every week looking for job advice or internship opportunities or whatever. And like, unless you've already started something, like it's hard for me to understand. Like, it's hard for me to help people that haven't started it on their own, I guess.
They don't have anything for you to
help. They don't have anything for me to look at or go off of, like I like, at least when I, was getting started at like the Kent Stater, and even like, my first like Cleveland sports blog that I worked at, like, they were at least able to see that I had 500 people on Twitter, and I would occasionally get, 20 likes on a tweet of what I had to say. So that let me then, flush out my thoughts in a full form blog and put it on somebody's site. But you got to actually do it.
You got to get started.
Half the work is showing up.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. And it's crazy how many people, and that's the first step. It's crazy how many people forget that. It's like the first step.
It's good to know, like, don't stop either once you start. Because a lot of people will start and do it and not see, like, the insights or anything that they're wanting, or like, oh, man, I only got 20 likes on this video, or blah, 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 blah. But that's, like you said, it's the beginning. Nobody's going to read it. But if you have a passion about it and you're doing it because you love doing it, it'll start showing.
Something to be said too, just about like staying in the arena long enough. Like, if you're in the arena long enough and you're like it, even though like if you're doing that and you're not getting a whole lot of traction, you've got 50 videos or tweets or blogs or whatever it might be put out there, and it's just not getting traction. Just like stay in the arena, because you never know how things could change. Some people might bow out, and then that lets your voice shine through. Like, I'm a firm believer of, if you just hang around long enough, something will break through.
I love that, Pedone, because one of my favorite statistics is Mr. Beast posted 455 videos before ever going viral.
Yeah, I believe it, man. I know people like, and I'm sure he wouldn't like mind me saying this on here. Like SirYacht, one of my friends.
I watch a lot of his videos.
Cleveland creator, like, people love him, people hate him. He's polarizing. He's like blown up on YouTube in the last calendar year. He's like, closing in on 1 million. Like, he's eventually gonna be a guy that has 1 million subscribers. Wow. And he tried and failed probably 10 to 15 to 20 different things of, consistent posting, posting, didn't go anywhere. So we would drop it. Then he would pick up the next big idea and he would try to chase it as long as he could. And that didn't pan out. And like, look at him. He has literally turned content creation into a full-time job plus. Like he's full-time YouTube creator. Obviously he's got like his other social platforms too, but he is a textbook definition of he stayed in the arena long enough. He just kept trying until he found something that worked. And now that he's doing these like crazy food challenges, he's completely blown up.
I watch him quite frequently because one, he's funny. He's
very funny.
And just like you said, his food challenges are crazy. Like he's going to Buc-ee's and eating Buc-ee's 7 days a week, living in a Buc-ee's, but running 15 miles a day.
He's an animal. Dude.
Chick-fil-A, 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, but running 15 miles a day.
How do you guys know about this guy?
He's a Cleveland guy.
He's a Cleveland guy. And he was in like the Cleveland sports conversation. Really? So that's why he was trying to do sports. He was doing like Browns videos in his car where like the Browns would lose. He would go in his car. He'd like freak the hell out about the Browns. And he was getting traction on that stuff. It just never blew up like to the macro level that these food challenges have. But I met him when, he was trying to do sports stuff. And we've just created a friend, he's just a friend now, even though he's still just a Cleveland sports fan. And he posts about that kind of stuff sometimes, but it's really like the food challenges that took off for him.
I don't personally know him. You guys are friends, right?
Yeah.
Shoot, SirYacht, if you're watching this, man, come on the podcast.
He'll come on.
Sweet, get SirYacht on here, dude. That'd be hilarious.
He's tall. He's like that's the one thing that I tell everybody about SirYacht that's never met him is he played college hoop. He's genuinely like 6'7", 6'8".
Really?
He's a big boy. Yeah.
If there's one thing that I could pass along to SirYacht is that I can hang with him on the miles and the eating.
Okay.
So that's my
miles,
claim right there, SirYacht. We're gonna have you on here soon, man.
Yeah.
Because now he does like a lot of buffet stuff, and there's a buffet in PA. It's the largest buffet in the world, 100,000 square foot of buffet. So
he's hilarious.
He's good, man. Yeah,
that'd be crazy.
But that's the cool thing about Cleveland, though, is Cleveland, and we were talking about this. We had a friend who came. He's from Cleveland. He does like producing and stuff like that. Cleveland supports Cleveland.
They do. It's because you have to, it's such a small space. Like everybody knows everybody for the most part. And even if, there's somebody in Cleveland that like I haven't met, chances are I know somebody that knows them very well that I could text and get in contact to. So there is always a mutual. And that's important in like the media space too, is you've definitely, you have to make connections. And I know that's another thing that goes along hand in hand with business is like I wouldn't even have made it this far if it wasn't for networking. And I know that's like such a cliche thing. It's like almost annoying to say because it's such a cliche, but you absolutely have to. And like it doesn't even have to be like put on your best suit and go to some networking event where you try to be awkward and get phone numbers that way, but like literally just like showing face at random things and striking up conversation with people wherever you're at.
That's
like
all it is. Like don't be scared
networking.
to talk.
Yeah.
Ask questions and engage. That's the main thing.
So that gives me another question. Was there a mentor or somebody either in college or in your beginning of your professional days that was like a catapult in your network to get you where you are today?
For sure. I think the big turning point for me was when I was able to and I don't know what it was because like all of my peers were just like, stick with Black Squirrel Radio, stick with like writing for the newspaper, like that'll get us a job when we're out of this. But I just like, that wasn't me, bro. Like I wanted more, like I wanted to be in the Cleveland sports space, not really the Kent sports space. Like that wasn't doing anything for me. So I started blogging and like the blogs were really like catching a little bit of traction online to the point where completely random, out of the blue, the guy that ran the blog reached out to me and he was like, would you want to, he's like, the company just got a Super Bowl credential. Would you want to go down and cover the Super Bowl? It was when the Patriots played the Rams, which probably was 2019 maybe.
Remember that?
I think it was 2018. So I straight up booked my own flight, booked my hotel, took a week off of class, didn't tell any of my professors. I was screwed when I got back because I had like so many late, like assignments, projects, whatever. But I went down like I knew what I was doing and I covered the freaking Super Bowl, man. And so I met a lot of people in the Cleveland media there. And I just went up, introduced myself. And I'll never forget Tony Grossi, who's a Cleveland Cleveland Browns reporter for ESPN Cleveland. I, shook his hand, said I'm from Cleveland, like he was like, kind of like looked me up and down, like, how'd you get in here type thing. And we, like, I'll never forget it, man. Roger Goodell's press conference had just ended, the commissioner of the National Football League. Yeah. And Grossi had asked him a question and kind of got, a no answer on Josh Gordon's suspension status. Like that's kind of the era that we were at. So, he was like, at least Goodell didn't like give you a non-answer, turn you down. I was like, yeah, like whatever, it is what it is. Wow. So he said, how'd you like get in here? Like, what are you doing? So I said, I went to Kent for journalism. I'm here with this blog, just trying to do my best, covering the Super Bowl week and then meet whoever I can. And he was like, well, what grade are you in? And I was a freshman at Kent. And he was like, well, I don't even think you're old enough for like an internship. He's like, but he like gave me his card and he was like, when you're old enough, for an internship, like you should look at ESPN Cleveland, shoot me an email and I'll, help get at least an interview set up or something. Wow. I was like, cool. So like similar to when the light bulb went off when my dad said to do this, same thing. Like I think Kent journalism, you weren't able to do your internship until your last semester of your sophomore year. Wow. So like I literally just kept his contact information and then applied. I got an interview and then interned there for a semester. And then really the turning point was they told us when we went into the internship, like orientation first day, they said some sort of statistic, like 65% of everybody that worked there was an intern at one point, whether they were in marketing, sales, on air, like they had a tendency to hire interns. So they were like, you can't make any promises, can't make any guarantees. Like there's no job openings here. But if you do a good job at your internship, we try to keep you, is literally all they said. And then to me, I was like, okay, this is not an internship. This is a 40+ hour a week job. You give it this your is life. My job. And it was unpaid, Nick. It was completely. So I was making the 50-minute trek from, downtown Cleveland to Kent State pretty much every day, and it was, it was a good experience. Like I wasn't grabbing coffee. Like I was actually like in the production booth, like just screening phone calls. But like I felt like I was a part of these radio shows. I had the, opportunity to like go do game coverage with Emmett Golden. I was able to be in the Cavs locker room and stuff. That's so insane. I treated it as if it was a full-time job. That is insane. And then when I was done, they were like, I didn't know that about you. Yeah. When I was done, they were like, hey, like we can't get rid of you. So they hired me permanently, and that was my first job. Nick and I both worked at Chipotle together also. Yeah. No shout out to Chipotle at all. No shout out. He worked at Chipotle too. Yeah. No free promo. No shout out at all. No, they owe us. That loop at one they owe us, bro. No, you'll get the bill for that. You'll get the bill for that free advertisement that we just gave you guys. So that was an incredible story. It gave me so many questions that I have to ask. Number one, were you working at Chipotle when that happened? Like, no, I quit. That was like right after high school. Right after, yeah, but I quit Chipotle during our. I don't even think we had graduated. Yeah, before we went to college. Because then I worked seasonally at Best Buy. Oh yeah. So like summers I would come back up to Macedonia Best Buy and work seasonally up there during my time off in Kent with B-Russ. So I was so I would have definitely been working at Best Buy at the same time as ESPN Cleveland. Yeah. That is such a crazy story because there's so many good points of emphasis in there. Yeah. Number one, obviously networking is huge. Yeah. You were at the Super Bowl, 19 years old, covering it. People were literally asking you, how did you get in here? Yeah, complete random, like right place, right time. And then I seized that opportunity though, I guess. That's the other thing. Huge. Yeah. A lot of people can get put onto an opportunity. They can get the opportunity to go do something big. Yeah. But you could have walked in and you could have been like, oh man, could have been skittish in the corner. I'm none of these guys. Right. Yeah. Who am I? I'm a no name. But you went in there like he knew what he was doing. Yeah, bro. You puffed your chest out. Bro, I did. I had nice to meet you. I had the most productive week away from class in like the history of anybody that skipped class. So not only like Ferris Bueller. Not only did I get myself like a future internship, bro, I kid you not, this blog, like they were like, man, we sent the right guy. Like this dude cooked. I wrote a full-length future story on Brian Hoyer while I was there, because like, dude, it was like Brady, Belichick, like McVay at the time, like it was McVay's like first or second year in the league, so everybody was like chasing those big stories of like how long could Brady, continue doing this with the Pats. McVay was the youngest coach to ever play to ever coach a Super Bowl, so everybody was like chasing those big stories. I wrote a full-length feature on Brian Hoyer being a kid from Cleveland, kid from Ignatius, like his time with the Browns, like what went right, what went wrong. Like asked him about being in the locker room with Johnny Manziel. Like we talked about like his Ignatius days. We talked so I wrote a full-length blog, like feature kind of story on Hoyer. Like JoJo Natson was the Los Angeles Rams kick returner, was a graduate from the University of Akron. Wow. So I talked about I interviewed him, and he like gave me this crazy story how like the University of Akron like changed his life. Like he had gotten expelled from his previous college. I can't even remember what it was, and like the only school that would take him was Akron, and that's when he realized that like he could play in the NFL, like that he had all the tools. It was just that he needed to be in a boring city like Akron to get himself on the straight and narrow. Wow. So dude, I really did, like I had the most productive run, like shout out. And that Super Bowl ended up like, it was horrible. The actual game was awful, but that week was phenomenal for your boy. And I've had the opportunity to do Super Bowls pretty much since then. And I don't know that I've ever had like as a productive week as that one. That was probably super especially cool, dude, just because I look back at it and I'm like, that is really what that's kind of what started launched my career.
So I mean, like I said, I mean, so one, networking, you got to be able to meet the right people. When you get put onto an opportunity, you have to show up. He drove 50 minutes, almost an hour from Kent to Cleveland every single day once he had the opportunity, unpaid, because he knew that there was a future there. So sometimes you got to make a short-term sacrifice to have that long-term goal. It's another good thing. The networking, obviously. And then like just showing up. And even if you know that you're unqualified, I don't want to say unqualified. That's
punching outside your weight class a little bit. Like
you're standing up to the big show, puffing your chest, dude. Like
got to.
And you show up, you're like, I'm Nick Pedone.
That's a big thing. Like the confidence and going into things and knowing that you are who you are and just not trying to play another role either.
Because think about it too, like, and like it's nothing really that I've like ever thought about, like, but if you don't believe in yourself, like nobody's going to, right. Like if you can't speak up for yourself and kind of
people can feel that,
pound the table for yourself, like nobody's gonna help you, especially not in the media world, dude. Like it's a dog eat dog world, bro. Like in those press conferences, like people are literally tripping over each other to get the next question in, let alone a job, let alone a career. Wow. Like these people are living straight question to question and article to article.
You got to stay hungry.
Question to question. What a life. One mile at a time.
Yeah, man.
That reminds me also of Denzel's foundation. Make them know your name.
Yeah, it is. It's such a good mantra, and it is like a kind of a philosophy that I subscribed to probably before he even launched it. It was unknowing to me at the time, but I really thought that and using Twitter as kind of the beacon to grow my name, I just knew that if I could grow a following before I even have the opportunity to get a full-time job out of school, if I could have a little built-in following, that's only going to help somebody try to hire me, No,
100%. Because you have something to show them, like you said. Nobody can help if you don't have anything to show or show your worth either. So came in there.
And it also shows that you're willing to try and you're willing to work, too.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And persevere through tough times.
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely got to strap up.
Yeah, that's such a cool story. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, man.
You've gone to other Super Bowls since then, right?
I have, yeah. I didn't go this past year, was in New Orleans. I didn't go. I went, the last one I went to was in Vegas. I went to the Vegas Super Bowl the year prior. So that was cool. Super Bowl week is fun. So the thing with Super Bowl week, especially now that I'm in my career and you've got a job to do and you actually get out there and stuff, is there's people don't it's just so much tomfoolery. It's profitable, obviously. That's the whole reason why they do it for the full week. But you literally it's a media circus Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, literally all day leading up to a 2.5 hour football game. It is a full
Everybody's just going nuts trying to get whatever they can.
And everybody's there too. Super Bowl media, they literally, there will be reporters from Ireland, like at Super Bowl Media Week, like in their, kilts and everything. Just
Really?
like it is a circus.
Wow.
Is that like the biggest and like most work time of the year, would you say? Or is it like draft week or shit like that?
Busy, yeah, like Cleveland. Well, I would love it for one day for us to be a Super Bowl Media Week would be the busiest. Probably not anytime soon.
Well, I mean, if we get that stadium in Brook Park, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm for it, man. I think that would be sick. Especially like to have a Super Bowl in Cleveland. It would allow us to do stuff like that. I will say, like, having been to multiple of them, like, just because they build that Brook Park Dome, though, like there's going to have to be so much in terms of infrastructure, some sort of shuttle system to get people in and out of like the Huntington Convention Center is going to have to be used. Like you're going to need to build like at least a couple hotels in Brook Park parlayed with another good shuttle service to the downtown. Yeah, like the downtown hotel service, like the infrastructure that you need.
Airport needs redone. That whole highway around the airport.
It's going to take...
It's gonna be a minute, but
be a minute for sure.
Yeah,
that'd be sweet.
But yeah, Super Bowl Media Weeks are crazy. I would say, like, to answer that question though, like my busiest time of year is probably like NFL training camp through like the regular season, because you got to think about like the NFL regular season in Cleveland, like the guards are usually good, so that usually overlaps with like MLB playoffs. The Cavs start their season somewhere in there, and then the Browns, like you guys know, being from Cleveland, it was something that I learned really probably day one at ESPN Cleveland. They told everybody that worked there, like, it's great that Cleveland's a 3-sport city. People want to talk about the Browns 365 days out of the year, 24/7, even on Christmas Day. Like people want to talk about the Browns. It's a football town. But that was like a helpful, nugget that always has stayed in the back of my mind. Like everything that I do, whether it's on air, social, whatever, is like through a Brown slant a little bit, just because that's what the masses really care about.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll get into Cleveland in a second. We'll get into Big Play in a second. You think we should do the halftime report?
Yeah, we can do that.
So we're going to do the halftime report, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's fitting because we have a sports guy here, but that's our normal term for it, is the halftime report.
All right, sweet.
So here's what's going to happen. Halftime report is led by Hadley. I will commentate on it. He will lead the charge. He's going to ask you 10 questions. You could answer them to any length, short or long. You may also plead the fifth.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
We'll start off a little bit easy here. What's one of the favorite athletes you ever had to interview with?
Favorite athlete? That's a good one. I would say Josh Cribbs, and luckily, Cribbs is a part of Big Play, so like
that'd be cool.
I interviewed him first, but that's probably like my favorite Browns player ever. So like you grew up, kind of watching somebody, and then you get to, interview and now share a workspace with, like,
that's
super.
Sweet. That was recent, wasn't it?
I would say Cribbs. Yeah.
That's sweet. Worst stadium food you've ever had on the job?
Stadium food on the job. Dude, no shade, because no shade at all, because seriously, like Progressive Field has done a phenomenal job with like all their renovations, all the food spots that are in that stadium.
Yeah.
I talk to people about this. The crab rangoon nachos were horrible. It's imitation crab. It comes out cold. I would sign off on literally any other food in that stadium. The crab rangoon nachos are a complete no.
I think you said something. That sounds appealing to me.
It's a complete whiff.
Because I know exactly where those are located in that stadium. And every time I'm like, should I get the crab rangoon nachos? I'm like, no, dude, I can't do it. And I ended up getting like the brisket nachos.
Yes, good play. Anything else from Progressive Field has my authorization. The crab rangoon nachos, though, I can't.
I mean,
I really would have got those.
It sounds good in the beginning, but then you start to think about it because the lines are long. You're like, should I really get crab rangoon nachos? Who am I? It's funny. But I love when the nachos come out in the helmet too. Those are the best. The helmet nachos. Really? Yeah, they have the helmet.
They have the helmet nachos.
Helmet nachos. You can get helmet ice cream.
All right.
They do a good job with the stadium.
Yeah.
One word that describes Cleveland sports fans.
Nuts. I mean, you've got to be absolutely nuts to be a fan of any of these teams. But I'll tell you guys this, like, and I say this to everyone, like, they're the best fans in the world, man. They really are. Like, when I finished my time at Kent, like, I had a full-time job offer. I had 2 different full-time job offers. One was to move to Dallas, Texas, and one was to move to Green Bay, Wisconsin. And I was like, I just can't entertain these because, like, people in Cleveland like care so much about their
hard.
sports. Where like I talk to people who work in Cleveland sports media, who are from other places, like born and bred California guy. That's like, dude, nobody cares about the Sacramento Kings. Like people aren't living and breathing Kings basketball the same way that we live and die with our teams here. You got to be absolutely nuts to be a fan of these teams, but they're the best fans anywhere.
What I will say, so I have family in Green Bay.
Yeah.
I go up to Green Bay once a year. I've been to that. I think it was 2001, if I'm correct. 2001, the Browns played the Packers Christmas Day. I went to that game.
Yeah.
Green Bay's fucking dope. I'll admit
Green Bay's
it.
cool.
Green Bay's really cool.
Cold, but cool.
Very cold, but the city does mob with the Packers.
Yeah, they do.
They party hard. So I'll throw that in there. Green Bay. That's my second favorite team. If I had to have like a, do you have any other teams that aren't Cleveland favorites?
Not really. I mean, I have like especially too, like as somebody that covers it so closely, like you do get like I understand like the ins and outs of like how each of these teams operate. So I wouldn't say that like I'm a fan of like any other teams, but I do have like appreciation of like how some teams do things. Like I think like the Los Angeles Rams kind of like F them picks ideology that they, rolled out with Matthew Stafford. Like that was a pretty dope ideology. Like they just said, we're going to screw our future and we're going to win a Super Bowl. And they did, which is really hard to do. And they've somehow since been able to balance, having a somewhat competitive team even after saying F them picks. So I create appreciations for how teams do things. I don't really have any other favorite teams outside
Cleveland
of
or die.
Yeah.
Cleveland or die. I like it.
Yeah.
All right. If you had to give up watching sports or eating pizza forever, what's gone?
Ooh. See, without sports, so the question is, without sports, do I know enough about other stuff to like continue a career in content broadcast, social media? I would say, yeah, bro. I would say that I could probably, I would say I know enough about social that I could do something outside of sports, and I love pizza. But the thing is though, like, could I stomach like never being able to watch like the Cavs again? Like that would suck. So I'd get rid of pizza. There's enough other good foods. Yeah.
What's the best pizza slice in Cleveland?
Yeah.
Il Rion's solid.
Il Rion is
it's hard to
very good.
Really? I don't think I've ever had that.
It's hard to go against Il Rion.
Portnoy reviewed it.
How about an underrated pizza spot in Cleveland that I always try to show love to is Map Room on West 9th.
Oh my God.
It's like a dive bar on the
took you
inside,
there.
but the pizza there, Hadley, phenomenal.
The pizza, I took him there. I think we were like going to a game or something. We were, I don't even know.
It's a good like
Yeah,
pregame
yeah,
spot. Yeah.
Their pizza is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
I used to live right across the street from that place. So
Really?
I always try to.
Yeah, I lived East 12th downtown for a little bit, and Map Room was a staple for us.
Map Room's cool too. They got some cool decor in there and shit.
Yeah.
Shout out Map Room.
Yeah.
All right, here's a funny one. Would you rather fight one Myles Garrett-sized duck or 100 duck-sized Myles Garretts?
Yo, give me the one. Miles is a beast. I'm not hanging with 100 miles, even if it was, even if they were duck size.
Wait a
Give me
second
the
here.
one.
Hold on.
So wait, ducks are vicious alone.
They are.
So,
But I like my chance against one versus.
but it's gonna be Myles Garrett sized.
That's fine. I mean, Miles is probably like a foot taller than me, 200.
How do you take on a duck like that though? Like, what's your first move?
What's my first move against a duck? I would say you got to think defense first. You got to be like, I can't get, regardless of what happens, I can't get pecked. Because if I get pecked, it's a wrap.
It's
Probably a big beak too.
Yeah.
I like to look at the contrary. So Myles Garrett just in like, I guess a duck's still kind of
A
big.
duck is still kind of big.
A duck is still kind of
So
big.
100
balls run half.
of them, and they're all Myles Garrett. Like
I think you have the right option, actually.
you're probably losing either way, but it's a good, good question.
What's a conspiracy theory you secretly kind of believe?
Moon landing was fake.
Yeah.
Moon landing was fake, dude. The fact that we pay, I think our internet bill at our studio for BigPlay is like just under $1,000 a month. Best internet that money could buy. We still have trouble getting these shows uploaded. There's no way that decades ago they were able to go to the moon in zero gravity and pull that off without a hitch. Did not happen.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. And I I believe in a lot of conspiracies. I'll be open about
Yeah,
that.
me too.
So I want to spin off that question. Being in the position that you're in with, professional sports media, you have gatekeepers at certain levels.
Oh, yeah.
You have to kind of hold back a little bit, or do you not care?
Dude, with some stuff you have to be, I would say like you have to just be sensitive, like you never know who's listening to what, you never know who's reading what. So you have to be sensitive. There definitely are, gatekeepers of everything, but for the most part, like, especially with like fun stuff like that, like I'm not going to lose my job for saying that the moon landing was fake,
Fair.
Yeah, because everybody says that. Because it is.
Yeah. Same with the,
People were like, he's a conspiracy.
How about another one?
Can't listen to Nick Pedone ever again.
Helen Keller probably didn't exist. Blind, deaf, and an award-winning writer woman at that time.
In a war?
Probably didn't happen.
Yeah.
I got conspiracies for days.
Oh my God.
All right, this is a funny one too. Which sports would be funniest if everyone had to play in Crocs?
If everybody had to play in Crocs, dude, probably like soccer, like something with a lot of running. I think would be funny because soccer is kind of hard in its own right.
Dude.
Hockey would be funny in Crocs. How do you skate? Let alone even just stand up. So hockey is probably my final answer.
That was funny.
What number was that?
That was 7.
Okay, cool.
You get one useless superpower. What is it?
Useless?
Useless.
I think useless, probably just the ability to fly. You
Useful.
get anywhere quickly. Yeah, you could parlay that into being useful.
All right. Which athlete would you trust the least to babysit your kids if you had some?
Like current athlete?
Current or before?
Probably all time. There's been some unreliable ones. I would say like the most funny one would probably be like J.R. Smith. Like I wouldn't trust J.R. with like any of my kids. I know the kids would probably have a great time, but I don't know if they'd be getting into anything.
Have you met
good.
JR?
I actually never have met JR. No,
I think he'd be a cool cat.
he would be. He kind of ducked out of Cleveland, and then that was, he doesn't. I feel like he needs to find his way back up here. Like the city has so much love for him. Like
he's golfing.
he is. I know he's like busy. Like I saw him. He was just on a pod not too long ago. But if he came up to Cleveland, like I think people would. I think JR would be surprised at how many
we love
people
JR.
would like absolutely
JR.
love him here.
Yeah,
He's awesome. He's a character too.
he's hilarious. Shirt off, 2016 cat.
Right.
Dude.
Yeah.
That was iconic. All right, last question here. If you had to call a play-by-play of your own life this week, what would your highlight reel be titled?
Oh, of this week?
Wow.
Highlight reel would probably be titled just "Survive in Advance," bro. Like my girlfriend was on a bachelorette trip this weekend, so like I was in charge of the house, like the dog, like feeding myself, feeding the dog. So like, yeah, we survive in advance.
What kind of dog? You have a
back home.
Pomeranian?
I have a Pekingese.
Ooh.
So a lot of people think he's a pom, but yeah,
Looks like a pom.
yeah, fluffy little dog.
Yeah, I want a pom, dude. I want a white pom.
Palm, really?
I love
The little dogs are fun, man.
See?
They are.
Little dogs are cool.
I've never had a little dog in my like growing up. Like we had a yellow lab, and then like right before I was about to move out to go to Kent, we got another yellow lab. So I never had a little dog, but little dogs are
Have
fun.
you seen a Cavapoo? You know what those look like?
I imagine it's like
They
some
are
sort of
so-
like King Cavalier
It's
and
like a
Poodle.
Cavalier and
Yeah.
Poodle mix, but they're so we got to pop one up on the
Jamie,
screen.
pull that up.
Yeah, we got to pop that up on the screen right there because it's
I'll throw it on
so
there.
fucking cute. That might be like next dog I grab.
Yeah, my brother and I live together, and we're like in this like real estate business thing together.
Yeah.
And I want a little dog. I do not want a big
Yeah.
dog. Big shits, a lot of food, a lot of shedding, a lot of space. I'm
Yeah.
already a big guy. He's a big guy. We're all big guys.
Yeah.
Big dogs don't really work. So I want a little dog, and he won't let me get a little dog. He's like, I have to have a German Shepherd. I'm a man, blah, 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 which I get it. We're big guys. We could defend ourselves. We don't need a
Yeah.
German Shepherd.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm going to show up one day with a Pomeranian. His name's going to be Chewy, and you're going to love Chewy.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I'm going to show up with the German Shepherd. And so now I can't get a dog.
Yeah, I did,
that?
dude. I did think it was gonna be weird, like if I, like just me walking around like this little fluffy dog, like because he's literally probably like this big, but no, it's not weird at all. Like he's man's best friend,
Nice. Yeah. I'll get there eventually. Little Pom. So we started at the beginning.
Yeah.
We went through childhood. We went through high school. We went through college. We went through your first couple shots at, where you are now, the things that got you there. So let's talk about now.
Yeah.
BigPlay Podcast. Take me from the beginning on that.
Yeah.
And
So
give it a shout out as well.
yeah. So shouts to BigPlay. That's definitely the main thing, and honestly has been for some time. So it just, the whole theme here is just opportunity and running with opportunity. So that was probably like the second blog that I ever worked for. Was BigPlay. It was a blog at one point, where we were just doing like Cleveland sport. It was really national. It was everything. It was Cleveland sports, and then just satirical national sports, memes, blogs, whatever. And I got involved with that probably 2018, and have been with Dave, who founded it, ever since. Made the decision to pivot in 2019 to like video podcasting. Before, when I was just on the blog side of the company, they were kind of toying with like audio podcasting was huge at the time. Everybody had a podcast, but like it's saturated as hell. Like, as I'm sure you guys know, like anybody and everybody could get microphones and, do a podcast. You could do a audio podcast on your phone, but Dave, our founder, had like the foresight to say like, what if we just put this like right on social media? Like, our audience was very much male, millennial, lazy. Like, if you ask them to click a Spotify link, like, they're not going to Spotify. So like, we were truly one of the first like video sports shows that were out there, and we were just putting it right on Twitter. Like, that's where the sports conversation was at. So pivoted from blog to video podcasting around like 2019. He brought me on like part-time behind the scenes. They had one video show every week to do the social media for it. So the science was do 1 hour-ish long show, and then you'll have clips and content to fill the whole rest of the week, so it looks like you're constantly live. So I was managing the social media while I was at Kent, while I was at ESPN Cleveland, helping Dave build up this one show. Had an opportunity to fill in and be on air on that show, and that show became BigPlay Cleveland, which I'm still on to this day. Was kind of like our first flagship show at the network, and then from there we copied and pasted it and built out like 14 other studio shows that follow that same model. Daily show every morning, as well as like now a whole golf section of the company is getting built out. So yeah, really just trying to
grinding multiple things at once.
Grinding multiple things at once, dude. Yeah, for
How
sure.
did you
I was
all that.
It's a lot of late nights, like literally at Kent, like would just be, at my apartment in my room, door closed, like I would tell my roommates like, yo, don't, like, when I open my door, like that's when you could bother me, so like I would literally just try to do all my homework first, then I would try to do all the big play stuff, and then jump into whatever there was time left for, so it was definitely just a balance of trying to do everything that I could at once. But that's a nice thing too, and like, it's this younger generation, doesn't understand. I don't want to be that guy, but like a lot of these kids and some of these interns that we get through BigPlay now, like, they got life on easy street, bro. Like, this is a paid internship. This is the only thing that you're doing with your classwork. Like, that's tremendous. You could do it remote. Imagine that. Like, remote work. Like, bro, I was sitting in my car 50 minutes down, 50 minutes back, to ESPN Cleveland, and then I had my remote work to do for BigPlay when I got back to the apartment. So yeah, it was just a grind and balancing a lot of stuff.
And I think that builds character, though.
It does.
A lot of people who have it too easy, they won't appreciate it once they get it, and then they'll fall back on it because they didn't have to really work as hard to get it.
Right. Yeah, it was just a balancing act, and like
time management.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Really.
Yeah, like, and I was fine then. I'm fine now. We got through it.
You got to believe that there's a reason for the madness, that it's all going to pay off one day, and I think you did, and it is paying off for you now. Dave. Who is Dave?
Go. Dave McAllister, legend. Literally just like a guy that would be great to pop on here at some point. Like Cleveland sports native, dad of many little children, literally just wanted an outlet to talk right about sports with his friends. He lives in Bay Village, super close knit like neighborhood community. Literally just wanted somewhere to put sports thoughts. They were doing him and Chris McNeil reflog on Twitter. See, that's a trend. Like, because I was able to network and build myself up online and kind of had that presence first. So McNeil and Dave hosted a Browns postgame show. Was like the first show that Big Play ever did live. They took drunk Browns callers like on Twitter.
That would be great.
So people, it was literally and no moderation. Like, you can't call into the radio station and drop an F-bomb. Right. But on a Twitter show, you could go nuclear and nobody would care. And if your hosts are Big Play Dave and Chris McNeil, they're doubly not going to care. In fact, they're going to encourage it. Yeah. So it caught fire during Brown season. They were like, we got to turn this into like an actual recurring show. So that's how he kind of ran with, Big Play Reflog as like the first show, and then just had the foresight to see that like the way that people consume sports content, the way that people consume content in general is changing, and that there was nothing really in Cleveland for like the younger sports fan. So that's kind of how Big Play was birthed, was just to take the most beloved influencers, ex-athletes, whoever, and give them a platform to host their own show and to kind of have their own coverage, their own way, sort of thing.
You bring up Twitter a lot too. Is that huge for like sports casting and all that? Would you say like that's your biggest?
I think it's in recent years it's probably definitely like it's plateaued, like I don't know that like.
You think it has to do with it switching over to X?
I wonder. I don't know. I definitely think the one thing though that Twitter has everybody else beat on is like the sports conversation. Like, that's the spot where sports fans go, because it's instantaneous and everything's chronological. So like, you could be on Twitter during any given Cavs game, Guardians game, and Jose hits a home run, everybody's talking about the Jose home run. So it's easy to insert yourself into the conversation that's existing there and grow a voice and a following in the sports specific scene. So like, I identified that as a young professional in the space, and I think Big Play identified that, and we really used social as the springboard into eventually getting shows distribution on TV and all that kind of stuff.
Are you guys part of like communities on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram where like you like post stuff into there as well to get interactions, or do you guys kind of just
not really? We never really, because like, dude, we've been on it for so long. Like 2018 was a minute ago now. Like that. Yeah, none of those features were even on there. So like, if you were just posting good content with like the hashtag Browns or hashtag Cavs, whatever, like back then it really was that easy to get your stuff picked up.
So you think it's gotten harder now then?
I do. I think it's probably gotten harder just because there's just a clutter mess of stuff out there.
So you got in there early, created a name early to where it differentiates your like, outlier.
But I do think that like if you're consistent with it, like you push through. I've seen people just come from seemingly out of the ashes, into being, top sports voices like myself.
Wow.
That was crazy.
So Big Play Podcast. We'll make sure to drop everything down low. Shout out Big Play. Shout out Dave. Shout out everybody on there.
Yeah.
All sports based. Cleveland only.
No, man. So so Cleveland was just the easiest because like that's our backyard. Right. Like we're headquartered at Berkeley for an airport. A lot of people don't know that. Like we have 2 full video production studios out of the terminal.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then we have a big sports lounge there, kind of like a sports.
That probably makes it easy for bigger names to come in.
Big time, super easy because anybody and everybody could just literally catch an Uber or just drive themselves.
For those who don't know, Burke is Cleveland's private airport.
Correct. No TSA, like so
right
literally
in.
Just go right into the terminal, pop right into our studio, park car on curb, hit the road on the way out. So yeah, super dope location. Cleveland, I think we've got like probably like 10 Cleveland shows, but then we're in Columbus as well. Bobby Carpenter, Buckeyes legend, hosts a daily Buckeyes show, or really college football show out of Columbus. And then Cincinnati, we have a Cincinnati Bengals show with James Rapine, who, like, speaking of network relationships, Rapine was up here working for 92.3 The Fan when I was at ESPN Cleveland. I sat next to that dude pretty much every Cavs home game because he was covering it for 92.3. I was covering it for 850. We're both just getting sound for the radio station to use on their shows the next day. He's from Cincinnati though, so when he had the opportunity to go cover the Bengals, he pieced out of Cleveland. You would think that's that, but as we're growing Big Play and we have an appetite to, move into different markets, I'm like, well, I know the number one Cincinnati Bengals beat reporter because he sat next to me during the John Beeline era Cavs. So it was the easiest hire we've ever had. Yeah, like, James, you want to host a show with us? Yeah. Okay.
So what are some other markets you guys are looking into?
You're definitely going to keep it growing, man. Like the golf thing, golf is national, international, really. People golf everywhere. So our latest addition was Jimmy Hanlon. For people that don't know, Jimmy's PGA pro, Ohio native, big Cleveland guy though. Would come on. I told him this, and he told me that it made him feel old, so I feel bad kind of retelling the story, but whatever, it's the truth. Guardians or Indians back then would go into rain delays, and it would be Jimmy golfing in his crazy outfit with the most beautiful women that you've ever seen. That was his shows, was he would teach people how to golf and with these beautiful girls. So we hired Jimmy. We brought all of his 17 years worth of content under the Big Play umbrella. We're gonna launch 5 new golf shows with him throughout this spring and summer, and then try to go back to our hyper local sports content. Probably Pittsburgh up next. As much as it pains to say, as a Cleveland sports guy, it's the most logical.
It's right
we got so many connects and people that want to start stuff in Pittsburgh. It's just gonna be the easiest natural next step for the brand. Yeah,
you guys have had a lot of big names on there. Just to name a few: Josh Cribbs, Daniel Gibson,
Booby,
dude. Shout out Booby. I saw Stipe was in in there. Stephen Kwan.
Yeah.
Who else? I mean, that's probably a lot of names.
Cribbs works for us. Booby works for us. In terms of legends, Carlos Baerga is hosting our Guardians show. That show is absolutely crushing with Gab Gowdy. They're doing such a good job with that. Matt Fontana, ESPN radio guy, hosts a show with us. As just those are just the people that work for us. Right. But then obviously the guest pool is endless, and that's probably it truly has become a hub for legend. Baerga on his show this past week literally just had Sandy Alomar in studio. Dude went to Progressive Field first base coach, to coach the game. Obviously Tribe legend. They just had Jim Thome on, baseball Hall of Famer. We had Mark Price on Big Play Cleveland.
I saw that. That's
when the playoffs started. Stipe was just in there not too long ago. So yeah, we really just try to keep that terminal as busy as possible with the guests and putting together the best shows possible for the fans.
Any guest that came in that was this guy's huge, a little uncomforting,
No, nobody uncomforting, because the one thing, the biggest misconception, all these dudes are just normal guys, especially and we try to show the human side of them. Everybody else tries to do the X's and O's, they talk about football 24/7. So we try to do some lighthearted fun stuff. I will say the most excited I ever was, Jameis Winston worked for us last year. And that was kind of the biggest project that I manifested and put together really myself, was to get the day Jameis signed in Cleveland. He's such a big personality. I was he has to be a big play guy. Yeah. And I thought guest, but I'm no, this dude has to work here in some capacity. He's just a content machine. So
he said Cleveland's the best place in the world for 90 days.
He's right. Genius quote, by the way. He's right. When it's beautiful here, there's no better place.
We're almost there to Cleveland, man.
But Jameis, whenever he decides that he's done with football, he's going to be the biggest sports broadcasting star. He'll be right. If he wants to do his own thing, he could be Pat McAfee and whenever he's done, because he's just that charismatic on camera, on mic. But that's just who he is. People remember when he did the pregame speech when it snowed and he's the horse is prepared for battle, but victory comes from the Lord. That's actually who Jameis is. That's not an act for the camera. So
no monologue. He's just going.
That's just him, bro. That's just how he is. So pulling off we had Jameis doing content for us in season. Him and his wife were doing date nights in the Cleveland restaurant scene, where every week they would go somewhere different. Like we took him to Swenson's, was probably like my favorite thing to pull off, and that blew his mind, and like just all different restaurants around Cleveland. So like I would say pulling that off was like the coolest thing, just because it was a major lift. Like we couldn't tell anybody because it was a massive thing, and it was just hard.
Have you been to Cordelia?
Cordelia, yeah.
That's Stephen Kwan's favorite place.
That is Kwan's spot, man. We
my favorite
talked to
place
him
as
about
well.
that. Yeah, we've
Nick
talked
brings
to him
up
about
that
that.
spot every podcast. He loves
I think it's
it.
one of the greatest restaurants in the world.
Yeah, man.
I've eaten all
Cleveland
over the
has a
place.
lot of good. People don't realize like, and it's definitely upscale. You know, like. The Marble Room is is definitely the best steakhouse between Chicago and New York, right here in Cleveland, Ohio. Like, and you're talking about like Michelin grade restaurants are like the only thing. Chicago and New York, that's what you're talking about. Like Marble Room's right up there,
Yeah,
you know,
'cause
smack dab in the middle of
When you think of food, you're like, okay, New York has a great food hub. Chicago has a great food hub. Cleveland could tug with both of those cities.
We're
in
slept
overall
on,
food.
dude. It's
Yeah.
crazy. People really don't know.
Yeah.
The food scene is crazy. Little Italy.
Little Italy's
Oh,
awesome.
Shout out to Feast, dude.
Oh,
Every
Yeah.
year.
It's like
Yeah.
It's a yearly thing for me. I
Yeah.
go 2 or 3 times a year.
Dude, I want to do. We've been talking about like we got to do some content at the Feast this
That's what
year.
we were
That's
talking
what
about
we're
too.
gonna vlog a little bit at the Feast. I think it's Cleveland's best
We were
event.
even
People
talking
don't know.
about going to
People
the
don't
Asian
know
Fest.
about it.
I
You know
know.
how many people
Yeah.
that I talk to that are lifelong Clevelanders, never been to the Feast.
I know.
It's a shame.
I know.
And like I'm from a big Italian family. Like my family like had like a house like way back in the day on Murray Hill right
Really?
down there. Like, dude, I grew up going to the Feast. Like that's all we did.
So if anybody's visiting Cleveland, come around the time of the Italian Feast of
Feast of
Assumption.
Assumption.
10 out of 10, spectacular. I recommend it.
Great
I go
time.
2 or 3 times. It's a 4-day
to.
event. I go 2 or 3 times a
Have
year.
to, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Everybody's so friendly there. Like the vibes
Yeah,
are good.
friendly,
no
good
drama
food.
out there. Everybody's just eating and smoking cigars and
Yeah.
talking shit with their hands up.
mobbing, it's great.
Yeah.
Fucking great.
So big play, check.
Yeah.
You're on 92.3 The Fan.
Yeah, new venture. For me to do the radio side, like I think it was full circle, like getting in the mix there. Because like sports talk radio like was the reason why I wanted to do any of this in the first place. So it's pretty full circle, and it's kind of surreal, to like be in the mix there. Like, that's the station that my dad would have in the car and like that I grew up listening to. So
Probably crazy to go from listening it, thinking about it when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Now you're on it.
It is. And to work with some of the dudes that like, bro, like I listened to you when I was a little kid, and now we work in the same spot. Like it is.
That's
Do you think manifesting had a big thing to do with it? Are you into like manifestation and stuff like that?
I'll tell you guys, like I definitely have gotten into that like over the last 2 years probably. Is just like, yeah, seriously believing that you could do something and then actually watching it come to fruition. And maybe I was accidentally, doing some sort of like manifestation.
Subconsciously.
Yeah, subconsciously, like just growing up. But like, yeah, that it is a huge thing.
It is. You got to be able to picture yourself doing it. And
Yeah.
if you can't envision yourself doing it or being there, then I don't think it'll ever happen. You've got to be able to see it.
Yeah.
Put that into the universe.
Absolutely. Manifestation is huge. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to attack it and go after it and call it like it is. It's going to come true.
Yeah.
So I'd like to know, like, when you're covering sensitive or like maybe controversial topics, is there any like challenges that you face when doing that, or anything you got to like kind of stay away from or not speak about?
Not really. Like, so to keep it like 100 with you, get like the Deshaun Watson thing was rough for me, because like I was just, like as somebody that like I'm still relatively new to all, like I'm only 26 years old, so like that sucked, because like, dude, like I, like in the like from like a on the field perspective, like there was a piece of me that was hoping that it would happen, but then from the professional side, I was like, I don't know how I'm even gonna be able to talk about this, like that wasn't just the number one story in sports, like that was the number one story in news, that this guy was just handed $230 million fully guaranteed not 1 week after his criminal charges were thrown out, and then he had a double dozen civil suits to sort out with some pretty disgusting allegations. Like that was difficult for me to navigate just because like there is an on the field aspect of the Browns thought at that time that was a guy that was going to elevate them on the field, but off the field you can't ignore that like this guy has been accused of doing some pretty gross stuff. So that was sensitive. Like I hate whenever stuff like that happens because like there's these guys are still human beings at the end of the day. So but they're celebrities, so you have to cover all of it.
Right. I want you to tell us a little bit about the future of Nick Pedone. What can people expect, and then also the future of Cleveland sports. I'd love to hear your takes on the Browns picks.
Yeah,
Cavaliers. We lost the playoffs. Better luck next year, hopefully.
Dude, but no kidding.
Let's start with future of Nick Pedone.
Oh, you start with me first?
Yes.
Shoot. I don't know, man. I think I've always just been a person that's tried to, and we kind of use the term on here, like punch one class above my weight class. So that's kind of been how I've made it along this far. Like that's what I'm going to look to continue to do. Like I definitely want to continue to see BigPlay grow and kind of have that as my main thing. But wherever life might take me and whatever opportunities might be there, I've always been the type of person to, just continue to push through whatever's there for me and walk through whatever doors open. So I'm going to just keep that. It served me up until this point. So I'm going to just keep riding with that. Keep obviously trying to grow everything all at once.
Beautiful.
Yeah. That's kind of the game.
I think if anybody can do it, you got it, man.
Yeah.
You made it this far and you didn't come this far to only come this far.
Yeah, for sure.
Push
So
through
just
the pressure and be able to work in uncomfortable situations and just strive past it. Right?
Yeah, man. Just try to stay the course as long as I can,
Nice.
Yeah.
Now tell me about your take on the Browns picks.
Dude, I like this draft. I thought the Browns did a good job with this. I think last year, like nobody expected them to be as bad as they were. So the nice thing is like I do think there will be like we hear so much in sports like natural regression. Like right now, like the guards are going through a little bit of like natural regression. They were so good last year, like they literally were a couple games away from beating the Yankees, punching a ticket to the World Series. But it's a young team, so right now they're going through a little bit of natural regression. I think the Browns are going to go through some natural progression just because last year was so bad. Like getting the Deshaun thing behind us, I think is only going to be a net positive just for vibes, for morale. But then from an on the field standpoint, like you couldn't have done much worse than what he did out there. So I was a fan of the Shedeur pick. I really think that
When do you think he'll start?
Dude, I think he's going to start sooner than people think. I think they're going to give
week 4, week 5.
I think they're going to give both of these dudes a look, Gabriel and Shedeur both, because they've got 2 first-round picks next year. So you got to figure out, like, can either of these dudes be good enough to prohibit you from drafting a QB in the first round next year? Like, if Shedeur comes in and lights it up, okay, now I got 2 first-round picks. I'm going to get him a bona fide left tackle. I'm going to get him a bona fide receiver, and let's hit the ground running with this thing. Or if they put them both out on the field, neither of them are very good. All right, well, now we could find that replacement and fix it. So I like what they did in the draft. I think they're going to be a little bit better this year. Not great, not a playoff team, but they're not going to be as bad as they were.
So I had a question, right? Because you're saying Guardians, you're giving them nicknames guards.
Yeah.
Do you like the name switch or and you're in the area, so I feel like you've got to say Guardians when you're talking about them, and you've got to do that. But like for me, if I'm talking about the Indians, they're the Indians. Yeah. In my head, because
it was weird at first. It was definitely weird. Like when I saw that they were switching, like I saw the writing on the wall, like Chief Wahoo was there, and then he was never used. But, like, it was still a logo. Like, they didn't ban it. It went from being on the hat and spray painted on the field to only being on the C. They did the same thing with the Indians name. They went from wearing Indians on the chest all the time to then out of nowhere it was just Cleveland on the chest and just the C on the hat. So they gave you kind of, and then Chief Wahoo was banned. And then when he got banned, it was like, okay, well, the name is probably next. That's it.
It's corny because it was like a tribute to the player.
It was, but I think like enough time had passed where really I think they were just ready for like a breath of fresh air and something new. Like also, if you think about it, like they were the Indians for a really long time and they didn't win. They haven't won anything since 1914. And so, I think there's also something to be said of like, hey, maybe we just bury this and try something new. Like, leave the politics and stuff out of it. Like, let's go with something new.
Were they gonna go with spiders? Like, wasn't that like one of the names?
I think it was one. Dude, they said they had a list of like 1,000 names. Like, I would have loved to read like what kind of Chat GPT names that were on that list.
For sure.
I think the spiders could have been cool because they were the spiders at one point. Yeah. But it's the same thing as the Indians. Like, they didn't win nothing as the spiders. So like, it made perfect sense to me to just go with something brand new. I thought the Guardians name makes sense because like, if you think of the Cleveland sports fan, like, aren't we kind of Guardians? Like, they've given us shit to root for since our whole lifetimes, and we still defend them with every fiber in our body delusionally. So we are kind of guardians of the city, and that's
we could have just called them the Cleveland crab ragu nachos.
I'm glad they didn't roll with that, bro. No, so I thought the name change was cool. Like, I was ready for it by the time that it happened, for sure, because you got the protest people that were outside of the stadium. Like, it was definitely time. The corporate sponsors were pressuring it. To change.
Yeah. Well, dude, it's been a hell of a podcast. I really do appreciate you coming on.
I do.
Like I said, we've known each other for a while now. I'm glad to finally have you on here. Yeah. One last thing we always do.
Yeah.
I have this right here. This is the Life's Complete Little Instruction Book.
I love it. I have the same book.
Really?
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
So then you already know there's 1,560 different line items. I would like you to give me a number between 1 and 1,560. Could be your favorite number. Could be any number. Yeah. Read it to them, and then we'll talk about it.
All right.
And that's our conclusion.
All right.
What number?
One number.
What number?
What number? I'm going to go with 316.
What does that number mean to you?
That's a Bible verse that we actually buried my grandmother with when she passed away. I was little. I was probably like 8. And it's just been, a number like 3. Like, it's just one of those things. Like, you look at the clock, it's 316. And you see in John 3:16, like, that is a pretty well-known Bible verse. But it's that number just shows up for me. Like, I was at Topgolf the other day for like an event that they were doing, Bay 316. I'm like, that number just follows me everywhere.
With the numbers too. So Nick yells at me for posting them on Snapchat.
All right, so how about this? And this is a good one for just the space. 316 is learn to disagree without being disagreeable. It's a good lesson.
Learn to disagree without being disagreeable.
Sure.
I take from that from a professional lens. Here's like a big misconception that people like follow sports media. There's a reason. Do you guys like the E in ESPN? What does it stand for?
I'm not sure.
Entertainment. Everything that they do, the E is intentionally the first letter because everything that they do has to be entertaining. Right. So I that is kind of like learn to disagree without being disagreeable. I like to think that like I have a lot of opinions, both in life and sports alike, professionally, personally, and just in sports that are, unpopular. And they're entertaining because they're unpopular. Polarizing. Yeah.
Where it's, it's like, it's going to go against the grain, but they're not going to hate you for it.
Correct.
In fact, they're going to like it a little more.
Yeah, they're going to be like, ooh, okay, what do they got to say next? They got a little feud going, little fires.
Yeah. Like, I may not agree with what he said, but I like this Nick Pedone guy. So I might watch the next episode of it.
Yeah, for sure. So learn to disagree without being disagreeable is a good thing too, because also think about it like from a not sports lens, but from a professional lens. The worst thing that you could have in like an office space is groupthink. Is one person kind of being the leader and then a group full of like yes men, because then nothing is going to get accomplished. Whereas if you could have respectable disagreements without being just the heel that is just saying something to be a dissenting opinion, like that's how progress gets made.
It's just like agree to disagree and then accept the contradictions and the constructive criticism in a way too. So you got to be able to do that. You can't just take what fucking...
Yeah.
Great
this
stuff.
Is a cool book, though.
I love the book.
It's a good book.
I like this segment because, people will have different numbers and have different opinions on everything.
Yeah. It's all perspective, really, with it.
Yeah, I like that. I like it.
Well, Pedone, man, I appreciate you for coming on, man. It has been a true pleasure. I feel like we could have gone for hours.
Could have, yeah.
We could have definitely gone for hours, but in this world... I think an hour to an hour and a half is like what we kind of cap out at of retention levels. So once again, Nick Pedone, Big Play Network, 92.3 The Fan, Cleveland. We're going to put all his stuff in the description down low. We'll put the Big Play. We'll shout out everybody.
Yes, sir.
Wishful Thinking. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, subscribe to us.
Yeah, keep
Subscribe to
crushing
him.
it, guys.
We're going to keep going, dude.
Yes, sir.
And hopefully we'll see you at the top as well.
I love it. Keep going.
All right, Wishful Thinkers. We'll see you guys later.